Around the world, countries are increasingly turning to renewable, clean sources of energy. Analysts are calling this a historic change in the energy shift. So, where is the GCC in all of this? A new report was written this week. This is Inside AB and Bernd Debusmann. Tell us about what came out this report.
Well, so AT Kearney wrote a report about various scenarios that might happen in the global energy mix in the future. And I thought one statistic in particular was quite telling, that the GCC collectively in 2016 produced 0.44 terawatt hours of solar power. That's less, however, than Slovakia, which produced 0.53. And Slovakia, of course, small country, has a tenth of the population of the GCC, and it has much less irradiation per square meter, which is a fancy way of saying much less sunlight.
Yeah. Okay, so why is the GCC so far behind in this regard?
Well, the report was interesting in that it put things in kind of a historical perspective. So, I mean, when oil emerged as, the world's premier source of power, I mean, it's very concentrated in a few areas. Of course, one of them was here in the Arabian Peninsula and in the Middle East in general. So there really wasn't that incentive. For example, in the past, coal and wood was everywhere. So there was it wasn't centered in any part of the world.
Coal was in lots of places.
Coal was in much more places than oil. So the GCC kind of, it lucked out in that regard, I guess you could say, in that, they were in a very, very strong position, right early on from 1950s and 1960s. So there really wasn't that drive to take on renewables, as might have been the case in some other parts of the world.
Okay. But of course, especially here in the GCC, there is an interest in moving towards this now. What advantages do we have in this region if we want to move towards clean sources of energy?
Well, the report highlighted a couple of advantages that were interesting. For one, there's a lot of uninhabited areas in lots of parts of the GCC.
Yeah.
And these huge solar parks take enormous amounts of space, which, for example, in Europe's not really available, in the east coast of the US isn't really available, these massive areas to build solar parks. Additionally, like I said, there's higher irradiation per square meter, which means it's sunny all the time.
Big one.
Yeah. Especially in summer when energy consumption is highest in the GCC happens to be when there's most irradiation per square meter. Of course, it's very sunny in the summer, as we all know. Interestingly, though, there's also the factor that there's like a strong knowledge base. There's strong institutions here that are, getting better and are good already at science. Institutions that are preparing people for the petrochemical industry could just as easily be repurposed to prepare people for, renewable energies.
So I think that's a really interesting point. If we look at, say, Aramco in Saudi, that's a highly complex industry with a lot of people coming through universities every year to study to be engineers to work in that organization. So presumably if they were retooled, they could be working in renewables.
And I think especially for an organization like that, they have a lot of resources that they can kind of use to redirect skills.
Yeah.
And they attract talent as it is. It would just be a matter of attracting talent with a different skill set or reskilling the talent that they have.
Okay. So what does the report say about the way forwards then? We see that we've got this opportunity even though we are behind at the moment.
Well, it essentially just said that moving forward, especially now that oil prices aren't what they were in the past, GCC governments need to be very smart about their investments, investing, like we said, in preparing a workforce for a more diverse energy mix, taking advantage of its position in the world. The GCC is between Europe, Asia, and Africa, so you attract talent from all over, and you have 3 markets within a very small space.
Okay.
Distance rather from where you are, and essentially just making investments towards renewable energy. Now, this already seems to be happening. For example, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, there's these very large-scale solar parks. Abu Dhabi is one of the world's largest, if not the world's largest. So it seems that, especially in the UAE, this decision has already been made. It's just a question of how fast and how much investment the GCC governments are willing to put into it moving forward.
Okay. Well, it seems then that the renewables energy market is growing very fast, and the GCC has a chance to be a big part of that future. Do let us know what you think. Comment below and get in the conversation. You've been watching Inside AB with myself, Jeremy Lawrence, and Bernd Debusmann. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and do join us every day at 10 a.m. Bye.